So, yeah, we were talking earlier, and you were telling me the story about when you worked at Santa Cruz that I think, well, did some work with UC Santa Cruz, right?
Yes.
That really, I think, exemplifies what it is that you're talking about. And I'd love to hear that story again.
Okay. So this was, I think, back in 2002, 2003. So fairly early in my career as a facilitator at that point. I was invited to come down to UC Santa Cruz by the ombuds person there. And what's going on is that California has had an ongoing budget crisis. And so they were looking for ways to save money at the university, and they discovered that there were 24 separate IT departments. And they said, okay, we'll consolidate you into one department. Well, that affected about 250 people. And in true power struggle form, the chancellor made the announcement and there was no more information forthcoming. So the conversations that keep those departments going lit up like wildfire with what's happening, how are we going to get through this? You know, I got to protect my headcount, I got to protect my resources, you know, and what are they going to do? What are they going to take from me? And so we walked into a situation where there was a lot of fear and a lot of mistrust and a lot of doubt and a lot of not knowing, a lot of uncertainty. And my team, which was myself and the ombuds person and another colleague of mine who does graphic facilitation, we met and decided the first thing we wanted to do was to bring together the 24 department heads. So we brought them together for a day of what's called a World Cafe, which is a specific process where people sit at tables of 4 and they talk about the whole room talks about the same question at each table for a set period of time, then they get up and rotate and go to new tables. And so we do that a couple of times and kind of harvest through them and see what's going on. Well, it was the first time in the history of the organization that all 24 department heads were in the same room together, which is fairly, again, it's one of those things that seems very obvious that you would have happen, but it had never happened. So it goes back to what you point out about organizational thinking. You know, they don't think about getting those folks together. And what we did was we wanted to begin by grounding them in something that was meaningful and important. So we asked them, why do you work here? You're all very skilled IT professionals, and you can go right over the hill into Silicon Valley and find high-paying jobs. Why are you here at UC Santa Cruz? And that grounded them in a lot of passion. You know, we heard things about how they were committed to helping young people, and UC Santa Cruz is a world-class organization. You know, they've got huge grants that come in for some. They've got Nobel Prize-winning professors there. There's a lot of research that goes on. People were very passionate about the school and their role in serving and the community, and so it gave them a really solid foundation. You know, I like to use an appreciative approach when I work with people. I don't want to go in and start to stir up a hornet's nest. So then we asked them, okay, what are all your concerns about the merger? You know, of all these, the consolidation effort of all these departments. That's when the hornet's nest opened up. And what came out of the harvest was a huge number of points where people were they were really concerned. They didn't know what was going to happen. They were, you know, very upset. They felt that there wasn't enough support for them to actually make this happen. And it was a moment where there was a lot of anxiety in the room. Mm-hmm. So then it was time once again to kind of ground them back, and we said, all right, so what do you do that's world class here that if it's not part of the new organization, there's no point in even attempting it? And that kind of put them into both a possibility mindset and a reflective mindset, as well as a mindset of operating from real pride and knowledge of we do this well. And so now we had kind of balance back in the room again. Then I said, all right, I'm going to posit to you that everything you do is coordinated through conversation. If I said to you tomorrow that we're going to New York, you wouldn't be able to do anything if you didn't ask me a lot of questions like, who are we seeing, why are we going, how long will we be there, who's paying for it, you know. So you're going to walk out of here today, and your people in your departments are going to come back to you, and they're going to say, well, so what? What's happening? You know, what's going on? And they're going to have a lot of questions for you, and you're not going to know how to answer them. So if we can identify the core questions that are most important for you to answer as far as moving forward goes, because you're the heads of the departments, you know what needs to be addressed, then that'll be very useful. Well, The underestimated part of that was I didn't know how long it was going to take to sort those through. That was about a 3-hour conversation. And we ended up with about 120 questions, which was way too many to deal with. So we gave people dots, 1 red dot and 3 blue dots. And we said, go up here, take a half-hour break. During the break, go up here and put the red dot next to the most important question. And then you have 3 other dots so you can get the next 3 questions after that. And what that revealed to us was kind of a map, a roadmap of the conversations that would be engaged over the coming months. And from 120 questions, you went down to 16 critical questions that all of the managers, based on all their years of experience, had consensus on, that these 16 questions are the most important ones for us to start to address. And so we knew that's what's got to happen here. In the next 4 to 6 weeks, we've got to start to get answers to these questions. And then the next level of questions with the, that were weighted and rated by the dots, gave us the next set of guiding questions for probably the next 3 months after that. And the ones that didn't get any dots on them were still important, but they were further out on the time horizon. So in a single day, we went from mass confusion and a lot of not knowing into a conversation that was very structured and very carefully prepared and planned, where at the end of the day, people felt like they had done really good work, and they knew what was important to them, and they knew what the direction was they needed to head, and they knew what the questions were they needed to begin to engage. And that kind of set the tone for the whole process. It took about 16 months. It involved over 250 people. There were several more cafe conversations. But that one was sort of the template that we used when we talked to the students, when we talked to the entire IT department, when we talked to the administrators and the professors. We kept asking them questions like that of, what's really important and what are the questions that you have. And as a result, I think there were only 7 positions lost in the consolidation. There were more positions that didn't get funded, but people took early retirement. So I think only 7 people out of 250 got laid off. And I want to just put one point in here for the chief information officer there. He was from Canada, and he was very committed to making this work for people. There was tremendous leadership there. I can only take so much responsibility for influencing those conversations, but Larry Merkley, who was the head there, just did an amazing job and got people to trust him, and so the degree to which that was successful rests mostly on his shoulders.
Yeah, it's interesting that trust is a very key component within organizations that either are working or are having problems. And it seems that trust is one of the core aspects that you need to be able to make change happen. Because when we were talking before about let's have a look, which one?
Well, let me speak to that while you're looking at the question. There was one moment, we were running this cafe for about 200 people. We had most of the entire IT organization there. And a woman raised her hand when we had an open period for questions, and I brought her the microphone, and she said, I've been here for over 20 years, and I've seen a lot of stuff come and go. I was here when we decided to get rid of the Cray. The Cray is still here. I was here when business process reengineering came, and they made a lot of changes, and they're gone, and those changes didn't last. I was here when we did TQM, and they made a lot of changes, and those changes didn't last. And why is this going to be any different than any of the other things that we've tried in the 20 years I've been here? And Larry, this man I just was talking about, to his credit, he stood up and he said, I accept responsibility for the level of mistrust of the senior management and leadership, because we have failed in the past, which was huge for someone to stand up and admit that. And he said, and the reason this is going to be different is you'll notice that in all those other efforts, we hired teams of experts to come in and survey and analyze and then make recommendations that we rolled out from the top. And you guys didn't get any input. You might have been surveyed and interviewed what's going on, but you were never asked for how you thought things should be different. The reason this is going to be different is because we're asking you now. We know the success of this effort will not work unless everyone who is affected has the opportunity to say how it's going to affect them and how they want to see it. Now, we cannot guarantee that every single person who makes a suggestion will be able to incorporate their suggestion, but I can guarantee that if you have a suggestion, if you have a comment, if you want to give feedback, we are completely 100% open and asking you for it. And if you don't feel comfortable in this venue, you can come to my office. If you don't want to see me in person, you can send an anonymous email. There's lots of ways, but we know that the only way this is going to work is if everybody has the chance. And we know there's still going to be mistakes, but we're trying to make fewer mistakes. And there was a palpable shift in the room at that moment, because people went, huh, maybe this guy's actually going to do something different that we haven't seen. And so it was a moment where there was more trust and also a level of hope that popped up at the same time.